community. And I've been hard at work adding a lot of very valuable and important things that you need to know and learn from in order to be able to be successful on your journey. Even years off of the struggle to be able to reach peak health, right? And that's what this is all about here. Now, when you become a member of the Tribe by Noor community, you get access to all of the courses, guide, and live streams, and well, I don't know what's going on here. What's going on here? I don't even know if I'm live now. This thing, I'm at 1 bar. I don't know if StreamYard can even handle, I don't know what's going on. I might have to completely abandon StreamYard with that. What was that? Man, what was that? Put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me clearly. Man. Yeah, put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me clearly. I don't even know if I'm even live right now. We ain't getting off to a good start here, I don't think. I'm not quite sure. Maybe not. I don't know. That was rough. Okay, we got some 1s in the chat. Deborah, I see you in here. Yeah, that was rough. I don't even know if the intro came through or what. It was 1 bar. I said, oh. Yeah, I might have to jump off a StreamYard now. But anyways, all right. We here. I'm not gonna hold y'all too long tonight. But I've decided I'm gonna practice what I preach. I'm gonna start getting to bed at a decent time, which means I can't be doing these late night live streams so frequently, right? You said the intro didn't come through? Yeah.
I don't know what that was about. It was at 1 bar. I said, uh-oh. So I don't know what happened with that, but it's all good. We're going to have to move on. We're going to have to move on. All right. So yeah, basically, I have been streaming in the mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern on Tuesdays and Thursdays. All right. So tomorrow morning, I'm actually going to be live. And I'm thinking about what I'm going to be doing moving forward is adding Monday morning to the stream. So instead of Monday night, 7 p.m., it might be 9 a.m. Monday morning. Right? I am doing something in my life right now, kind of getting back to my roots, right? Going back to some of the habits that I had in my most prosperous times and going back to that, right? And being up late is not a big part of that for me. Just to catch y'all up, I've been staying up real late. I've been staying up 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. It got bad to the point I was staying up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's bad. I was going to bed too late and waking up too early. I was like, all right, we got to get a handle on this. And last night, I was able to get to bed at a much earlier time than I did all last week. And I think in large part for that is because I am pretty deep into the alternate day fasting strategy right now. I got 12 weeks. This week is the 7th week. All right. So this Monday starts the 7th week of alternate day fasting. Okay. So I am about halfway through the 12 weeks. Okay. A little over halfway through. I have dropped, so far I've dropped 10, 11 pounds, somewhere around there, right? So pretty good so far. Now, one thing I got to do is I have to be diligent with adapting to the stressors of pursuing more ambitious goals. Like my current goal right now is to drop to 6% body fat. All right. So I'm giving myself the 12 weeks to do so, which is like the normal routine. And then I spend the rest of the year building up and gaining back the weight that I lost, but just in a different way. Right. So with alternate day fasting, for those of you who are tribe members, this is called the train, feast, fast strategy. Right. So if you're a Tribe by Noir member, you have access to not only the High Raw Vegan Nutrition Guide, but also the alternate day fasting guide, train, feast, fast. So as it stands right now, I have 4 full days of eating followed by 3 fasting days. Well, not followed by 3 fasting days because it's alternating. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, I have full days of eating. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I fast. So it's a 24-hour fast, and I eat 1 meal before the end of the day. Okay? So that's more or less what's been going on. So I've been doing that for the last, well, this is now 7 weeks, right? And I am at a body weight now that I haven't been in a very long time. I haven't been this body weight out in, I don't know, maybe 2 years I haven't been at this body weight. Maybe even 3 years I haven't been at this body weight. Actually, no, I think it's even been longer than that. I hit a body weight of 144 pounds. Right, so that's currently where I'm at now. And this is now pushing up against the psychological barrier that I'm at. So it takes a toll on me a little bit. Right? So I have to adapt. So the morning streams, basically, in the mornings, I have a lot more energy. I have a lot more mental clarity and mental focus and drive in the mornings. In the evenings, not so much. But a lot of the anxiety and things really start to set in at night. And it keeps me up at night. So if I'm doing a lot of talking and you know, I'm animated and talking to y'all and generating all this energy and I have all these thoughts floating around in my head, it's difficult to turn it off and go to sleep. because I'm ramped up talking to y'all, right? So I got to really focus on settling down, which means I can't be live streaming 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night and then be amped up. And I'm a bit obsessive, so I pretty much work like 7 days a week, and I'm up nights doing stuff. Y'all have no idea, right? It gets pretty busy. So I'm like, all right, I got to be better at stress management, which in a big part, I got the diet locked in. I got the training locked in. I'm getting plenty of sun exposure. The next thing to really dial in on is sleep. And I'm always telling people, hey, you need to get to bed earlier. You need to get to bed earlier. It's not how much sleep you sleep, but it's when you go to sleep, right? It's all a part of stress management. And this is important now more so than ever, right? Specifically for me in particular, right? Because I'm responsible for a lot. So I need to be at my best at all times. If I am not at my best, this directly harms me and all the other people that I'm responsible for serving. Okay, so it's not just about me at this point. I am responsible for others. So hitting 144 pounds, for me, I'm like 5'9", 5'9 and a half. For me, hitting 144 pounds is a very low weight that I'm not used to being at. Now, a person can look at me and not realize that I'm 144 pounds because of the muscle mass, right? But when I see the number on the scale, I'm like, oof. I wouldn't necessarily even know that I was at 144 pounds looking at myself in the mirror because I just look leaner. And because I look leaner, I look more muscular. So I don't realize that how much weight I've actually lost because it doesn't look like it, right? A big part of what I do and a big part of my strategy and what I focus on is body recompositions, body transformations, right? Whether you're trying to lose a lot of weight or gain a lot of weight, right? Either way, right? I have a fully fleshed out strategy on both ends. However, the interesting thing, and I'm going to talk more about this today, but the interesting thing is the fear of weight loss. And interestingly enough, even people who are trying to lose weight have a fear of weight loss. Okay. So tonight, I'm going to be focusing on the fear of losing too much weight, the fear of skinniness, right? Skinny people will have a fear of skinniness. Fat people will have a fear of skinniness, right? Everybody can have a fear of skinniness. And people can have a fear of excess weight gain also. Basically, the fear is the uncertainty around change. The more you change, the more it deviates from your lived experience that you've crafted your identity around. And so when that's shaken up, when that's changed very drastically, it's a little unsettling, and we'll do things to try to revert back to what we're most used to, right? It's very important to understand that because when you are trying to reach a goal and your goal requires you to move very, very far away from your norm, it's going to be very difficult to stay on track, right? If you have to lose 100 pounds and you lose 100 pounds, let's say you're a woman who's 230 pounds and you drop down to 150 pounds, you're like, I don't know if I want to lose any more weight than this. This is a lot. And you can be a woman who's 234 pounds and you're like 5'3" and be like, and be at 5'3", 150 pounds or 140 pounds and be like, I don't want to lose any more weight. When really, like, a good weight for you would be like 130 pounds. But when you see the number on the scale and you see how much weight you've lost, it's so far away from what you identify as, especially if you're a person who, you've been obese, you've been overweight for years, you've been used to it, you've grown accustomed to it. Your whole life is crafted around excess body weight and an extra large body. All of your clothes is geared towards a certain size, a certain weight, right? your bed, your chairs, the way you move, your daily habits, everything is geared around being at that weight. And when you change that, it's a little unnerving, right? And so you can sabotage it as a result. And I get it from a lot of women. I want to lose weight and get in shape, but I don't want to lose my curves. I don't want to be skinny. I want to lose weight, but I don't want to be skinny. I don't want to lose my curves, right? I don't want to lose my butt. I don't want to lose my butt. I don't want to lose my hips, right? And this also applies to men too. For me in particular, most of my life, almost not most of my life, I would say half my life, I wanted to gain weight. I wanted to gain muscle. I wanted to be like husky. I wanted to be big, right? I wanted more of a husky, athletic build. That's what I wanted because I was skinny. I got made fun of for being skinny, right? I constantly had to hear about how skinny I was. Even family members, oh, you need to eat, boy, you're too skinny, right? I had family members call me water boy. I had my dad making skinny jokes about me, right? My dad would call me X-ray. Ma, you probably remember that. My dad would call me X-ray, right? Water boy, because all he drinks is water. It's water boy, right? So a big part of my identity was like just being skinny, right? Or being like small or underweight and real young looking too, right? So I looked younger than all my peers, or like a skinny child. So I wanted to be big and be taken seriously, right? So I dedicated all the time and energy and money and resources to gaining weight, right? And learning was the best way to do it. So I reached the top weight of 193 pounds. I trained and trained and trained through all the joint pain, through all the lethargia. I mean, some of my most intense training routines. I mean, I would sleep on the train home and sleep on the train to work. I would live nap to nap because the training was just so exhausting. And it was just eating and training and taking naps. Just surviving, surviving the journey. Joint pain, food, hard training, and naps, right? In a grueling work schedule. That was my life for a long time. A big part of going plant-based, I went plant-based for ethical reasons. I didn't do it for health reasons. And I went plant-based, high-carb, whole food, plant-based diet. And I had dropped from 193 pounds to 145 pounds. And that was my first experience with dealing with the fear of losing too much weight, getting skinny. I was like, and when I went from 193 pounds to 175 pounds or 170 pounds, that's when I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't like this. I feel like I'm just losing all my muscle. I dropped down to 165 pounds and was like, I feel like I'm losing all my muscle and just maintaining body fat. That's what was going on in my mind. Like, I'm losing all my muscle. I'm losing all my muscle. I'm losing all my muscle. I'm getting weaker. I'm getting weaker. I'm getting weaker. I'm losing all my muscle. Right? In my head. But I stayed the course. Right? And one thing that helped me stay the course is I felt good. I still had high training performance. I felt really good. My joints weren't killing me. And I had no more seasonal allergies. So I was like, I'll stick it out. Let's see what happens. When I got down to like 155, 150, that's when I started to see, oh, there it is. Because you go from like just shrinking your body to then looking more lean. And then the leaner you look, the more muscular you look. So I'm like, oh, I actually didn't lose all my muscle. And I got reinvigorated on the journey because I saw I was actually looking pretty solid. So anyways, I rode the journey. I got to like 145 pounds, 6% body fat, right? And I loved it, right? I was tan. vascular. This is like the first time in a long time I had like I could see my veins and my like obliques and stuff. Right? Just see veins popping out of my shoulders. I had veins popping out of my back muscles and stuff. It was crazy, right? Striations. And it was a major accomplishment because I haven't been that lean since like maybe 18 years old, 20 years old. I haven't been that lean. It's been a long time, right? At that point. Fast forward from then, damn near a decade, I got back there again, 145 pounds, around the same body fat percentage, but doing it through a high raw vegan diet, but this time with alternate day fasting. And it was 12 weeks alternate day fasting, 36-hour fasts, right? And I felt great. Fasting days saved me a bunch of money, had energy. I didn't have to meal prep because there was no eating within the 36-hour period. I don't have to worry about eating. So I could be way more productive. It was great. But battling the weight loss thing again, right? Getting too skinny. Now, I'm back again. Like 3 years later. I want to say 3 years later. But this time, alternate day fasting, 12 weeks, 24-hour fasts. And so now, I hit 144 pounds this time. Needless to say, I am not 6% body fat at this point. So things are a little bit more different for me now. So then the question then becomes, well, how come I'm not 6% body fat yet at 144 pounds? With the alternate day fasting strategy, things are a bit different. Because when I originally got to 6% body fat, I didn't get there through fasting. I got there through a high carb diet approach. If I would have did it through a fasting approach, I would have had to drop down to 135 pounds or something to get that lean. So with this strategy, it's a bit different because all the results come when you drop a lot lower in weight. So for example, if I use a fast or this fasting strategy to get down to 144 pounds, but I have full days of eating over the next 3 days, my weight will pop right back up to like 152, 154. So my true weight after a fast is not 144 pounds. That's just a number on the scale. And that's what kind of prompted me to talk about this subject now. Because when you're in a cut, when you're pursuing weight loss, getting lean, right? The cutting phase happens in phases, right? Your body changes in very different ways from block to block, right? Most of the weight loss comes from a depletion of glycogen as well as stored fat, but glycogen that was stored inside your fat cells, right? If you go there through a fasting approach, basically with the fasting approach, you're using the fasts to chip away at that stored glycogen inside your fat cells as well as your skeletal muscle tissue and things like this. So one thing that happens that you notice is you don't necessarily drop pounds from body fat at like this rapid rate. It doesn't really happen that way. That's more likely to happen when you're really, really overweight and most of your weight is like body fat, or at least like 40% of it or something like this, or 30% of it. However, you get to a point where your body fat is in like the teens, 12%, 10%, right? 14%, something like this. Or for a woman, 18%, 20%, something like this, you're a little bit more closer to a normal healthy weight, and things are a bit different. You don't really drop body fat at like this warp speed like that. It doesn't happen. Because now your lean mass is much higher than your fat mass, which means that you would see a drop in your lean mass faster than your fat mass. It's not that you're losing lean mass, it's the lean mass is contracting because there's less stored glycogen inside the lean mass. Right? So your body pulls glycogen from your lean mass tissue as well as your fat mass tissue. And so as this is happening and you're dropping weight, there is a point kind of like halfway in, or like at least a quarter of the way in. So let's say if you're doing 12 weeks, you can go through like the first 3 to 4 weeks and feel like, man, I'm not really getting as lean as quickly as I thought I would. I feel like I'm just getting skinny. I feel like I'm losing my muscle. You go through that thing in your head. Right? And I'm specifically talking about alternate day fasting, but you can extrapolate this out to other strategies as well. It's just that if you try to get leaner while eating every day, it happens much, much slower. So like most people, they get impatient. Right? Because basically, in order to drop body fat, you have to be in a catabolic state. Okay? Basically, a catabolic state is where your body is breaking things down and harvesting its energy. Right? That's essentially what's happening. If you're in an anabolic state, your body's building things up, right? It's increasing glycogen storage. So if you're always eating, you're always putting your body into this anabolic state, right? So it takes much longer to drop the body fat. So in order to drop the body fat, you have to go into this catabolic state. Now, what's interesting is this. You have your total body weight. Then you have your fat-free weight. Then you have your body fat percentage. And then you have your lean mass percentage or your muscle mass percentage. And then you have things too, like bone mass, like what's the weight of your bones and what's the total weight of your skeletal muscle, total weight of fat-free mass, this type of thing, right? If you're going like a digital scale or something like this, you have all these different numbers. It's very important to pay attention to not just the whole numbers, but the percentages. One thing you'll notice is, and this will kind of help keep your mind at ease, because the thing is, you do drop body fat faster than muscle mass. You just do, especially if you're doing it through a fasting strategy, right? It's not that easy to lose muscle mass. However, people get kind of tripped up because they view the depletion of stored glycogen inside muscle tissue as being like a loss of muscle. That's not really what's happening, right? It's kind of like if you have a balloon and the balloon is filled with water, but then if you release like 20% of the water, is the balloon smaller? Kinda. Do you have less balloon? Not really. It's just that it looks smaller because it's not as full. You fill it back up, it'll go back to the same size it was, right? There's not less material in the balloon. It's just that the balloon is contracted because there's less water in it. It's kind of like how muscle mass and fat mass is, right? You can't really destroy fat cells, or you can't really lose fat cells or muscle cells. You can shrink them and you can increase the size of them, right? They're basically like vital organs, right? Your skeletal muscle tissue is a vital organ, right? Your fat mass is a vital organ. You can shrink and decrease the size of your vital organs, right? It depends on hydration and glycogen storage. Now, typically, one thing you want to look at is your body fat percentage, and then you want to look at your muscle mass percentage. So if you're stepping on a digital scale, you'll see these two numbers. Your weight can keep dropping. Your body fat percentage will probably stay around the same percentage. It'll 1 week it'll be like, I don't know, let's say you're 12% body fat. It'll drop from 12% in 1 week down to 11.6, right? Or 11.7. right, or something like this. But your fat mass, you don't really get your weight in fat mass. You have to derive that from the percentage. Now your total body weight will drop, and your lean mass will drop, and then your muscle mass will drop as far as the total pounds the total pounds. And you'll look at that and be like, oh no, I'm losing muscle mass. But the interesting thing is when you have an eating day the next day and you eat, above maintenance or slightly above maintenance or even at maintenance, you can wake up 2 pounds heavier the next day and then your numbers revert right back. Right? And we know you can't gain 2 pounds of muscle mass in one day. Right? So it's important to know these things. The struggle comes from like this uncertainty where you're not sure what's happening. Oh my God, am I losing all this muscle that I worked so hard to build? Am I losing my curves? It's this kind of thing. People get uneasy about it. It's the uncertainty of the not knowing. So basically what I'm giving you now is the foundation of knowing what's happening. Fat loss is not a rapid thing. You can lose weight very quickly. It doesn't necessarily mean you're dropping body fat very quickly, at least not to any meaningful degree. It's very important to understand that. All right? So when we talk about weight loss, there's a very big difference between weight loss and dropping body fat. It's very different things. Dropping body fat happens very slowly. Gaining muscle mass happens very slowly. It's easier to put on fat mass than it is to put on muscle mass. Not easier necessarily. One happens quicker than the other. But it depends on how you're doing it. Gaining body fat usually occurs from food poisoning, not just simply eating too many calories. It doesn't really work that way. If you're trying to drop as much body fat as possible and get as lean as possible, you cannot have a fear of getting skinny. Because the fear of getting skinny cuts directly against your goal. Dropping down to a specific body fat percentage is a very small part of the journey. Right? And what I mean, right, is if you know like bodybuilders, like natural professional bodybuilders, like they compete. I've known guys who are professional bodybuilders and they walk around at like 210 all year round, 210 pounds. When they have to get ready for a show and they have to lean out, they'll go and drop down to like 180, 175 pounds to get ready for the show. Right? They got to drop like a whole 25, 30 pounds or something like this, like 25 pounds or something to get like lean enough to step on stage and get and win, to be truly like lean and striated and whatnot. Right? These are people who are already like fairly lean and trying to get to a healthy weight. But when you want to get truly lean, like vascular and striated and all that, like really lean and athletic build, that's a whole nother thing. That's not just about like getting to a healthy weight. That's about like, you just want to, you don't want to just have the muscle mass on you, but you want to build a specific type of physique. It's a very different thing. However, getting to that body fat percentage is a setup for other things that you do afterwards, right? I don't get down to 6% body fat just to be 6% body fat and just stay there. That's not why you get there, right? You get there as a setup to then ramp up muscle mass in a significant way, right? To the point where it fundamentally and kind of permanently changes your physique moving forward. So when you're trying to create a body transformation for yourself, right? Typically, even if you're overweight or you're not really that overweight or you're like really, really overweight, you may have a weight loss goal of like 100 pounds, 150 pounds or something like this. Your mindset around your weight and how you perceive yourself is something that you really, truly have to understand. Most people enter into it not really understanding what it takes, what it is, and how your identity has to change. Right? And if you have a fear of becoming too skinny or losing too much weight, that will work against you in very massive ways. You have to learn to accept the journey and the transformation and the sacrifices that come with it. And just understand skinniness is temporary. Okay? I know that for me doing the alternate day fasting strategy, I'm actually going to run this to the point where I reach, like, I might get to like 140 pounds, 6% body fat this time. Now you can say, when I first did the alternate day fasting strategy, when I first dropped to 6% body fat, I did it without the alternate day fasting strategy, right? I didn't do it with any fasting. It was just straight up diet and training. I don't remember how old I was at that point, but I know I was in like my mid to late 20s, something like this, maybe. However old I was in 2016. Say like 28, something like that I was. No, 27, something like that. Anyway. So, when I did the alternate day fasting strategy, I dropped down to 145 pounds. Not really, because I actually think I dropped down to like 145 pounds, 8% body fat. I didn't drop down to the 6% that time. Because I stopped at 145. I had a fear of getting too skinny, so I stopped. Right? I didn't want to get below 145. I had to hang up about 145 pounds in my head. Now I don't have that hang up. Now I'm like, I'll get down to 140 because I want to hit that 6%. I'll even go down to 136. I don't care. However far I got to go to get to that 6%. So I'm actively leaning into the skinniness per se to get there. This is more of a mental challenge for me because I'm a type of person who needs to be challenged. I need to be pushed hard in my life. I don't do well when things are easy. I don't do well with that. It's hard for me to really get dialed in. It makes me lazy. Right? So this is like a very meaningful challenge for me. Now here's what you have to look forward to, because if you have a fear of getting too skinny, just understand it is going to be, once you get to your ideal body fat percentage, the leaner you get, the easier it is going to be for you to gain muscle mass. And I mean it. The last time I typically drop to 8% body fat, not 6. So I know that if I drop down to 136, I can be back up to like 145 in a week. But my body fat percentage will still be at 6%, maybe 6.5%, something like this. Now you can carry your eating strategy where you can consistently gain weight throughout the year to the point where, for me, I know that once I reach my 6% body fat, I'm going to go on a weight gain strategy where I'm going to pursue a total weight gain of like 25 pounds. So basically, if I hit like 140, I'll go back up to like 165, 170 pounds. Right? But the thing is, when I get to that 165, 175 pounds, 165, 170 pounds, it's going to look like I'm like 190 pounds. Because you gain the weight back in a different way. And then, of course, once I get to the 170 pounds, and then I have another alternate day fasting strategy, and I lean out and cut down, and I may cut back down to, instead of 136 or 140, it may be 145, 150, because I have a lot more muscle mass on me. And this is a bit of like a reset in my life, right? number one is, yeah, embracing the skinniness. Understanding, like, I no longer have the hang-ups about my weight. A lot of us have hang-ups about our weight. Whether it be you feel you're too heavy or you feel like you're losing too much weight. We all have those, right? And it's really important to get over those and see ourselves in a bit of a different way. Meaning, like, we don't just see our total weight, we don't just see our body fat percentage, but we see other things. We see performance, we see how we feel, mental clarity, spiritual health, and then we see the percentages: bone density, skeletal muscle percentage, right? The body fat percentage. We start seeing our A1C, blood pressure. We start seeing all these other metrics. And that gets factored into the numbers that shape, the metrics for our body and how it performs. The weight on the scale is not as meaningful when we add in all these other metrics, right? So it's very important, basically, to challenge that. So this is my way of challenging that. And I've coached people who are like bodybuilders and coaching them through a cut, and the cut is very difficult for them because they always feel like, oh, I'm losing too much muscle. Oh, I'm losing too much weight. Oh, this is taking so long. They all go through it. The cut is hard, right? It's the same thing to when you start gaining weight. Oh, I feel like I'm getting too fluffy. I feel like I'm gaining too much body fat. I feel like I'm losing muscle definition. We just go through this, right? When you deviate away from your norm, you're just going to act up about it. It don't matter whether your weight's going up or down. This is how it is. So you have to get over that, right? You have to get over the body dysmorphia. Otherwise, it's going to make it very difficult for you to pick a lane and pursue it, whether it be weight gain or weight loss, right? You have to pursue a broader, more meaningful goal. Right? So in this case for me, like, I have like a whole year-long plan that I'm pursuing. Going back to being the person who goes to bed every night at 9:30, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning. Oh, I love those days. Oh my God, I was on fire on those days. Loved it. Getting back on track where I have an annual plan. Things are more planned out. I'm more disciplined. And going into, and look, we're in a massive season of change right now. When you look at global news right now, it should let you know what time it is. On a personal level, you need to get strong. All right? Right now, what are we in, 2025? 2026. A lot of people ain't gonna make it in 2026. A lot. People not gonna handle it well. 27, 28. People not gonna handle it well. For the next, like, till 2030, it's gonna be a struggle. It's gonna be a grind for people. The world you live in is going to be fundamentally different. It's going to be a whole new world, and you better be able to adapt. And the way you adapt is you first have to adapt to a new you. You got to be a different person than you are now. This goes for me too. I don't talk about politics a whole lot on this channel. Right? I don't. But it is good to kind of touch on it sometimes to give you perspective. This is news going on, right? For example, we right now are witnessing every day on the internet a live streamed genocide, a mass starvation campaign against them folks over there in Palestine. It is a nutty thing to see. And when I see that right there is like humanity is being tested and failing. All right, that is a massive failure of what humanity has to offer. That's a very bad sign. Even like when we look at like how our government right now here in the US is operating, we have a government filled with the creations of the devil. It's pure wickedness going on in there. It's dark stuff, right? I ain't gonna get too graphic and make the stream all negative and bring it down, but because you get into the details of this stuff, it's dark as hell. You see the climbing rates of obesity, you see the climbing rates of diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disease. I had 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 18-year-olds reach out to me about high blood pressure, erectile dysfunction, diabetes. I'm like, how old are you? And you see people younger and younger and sicker. Young people with like old people issues. You see young people in their 20s, early 20s, in college with health issues that only like 50 and 60-year-olds should be having. They're going to have to contend with that. They're going to have to contend with not having health care. And they're going to have to contend with school debt, where the government is just like, yo, we're about to garnish your wages. We don't care if your rent is due. When you hear stuff like this, it's like, yeah, you know what time it is. So when you take all of that and all those circumstances, how strong of a person do you think you are right now? And how much work do you have to do to become a stronger person? To be able to withstand the challenges and the aggressiveness of the time we're in. Right? So that fear of losing too much weight or being skinny, that's going to have to be perceived in a fundamentally different way, because the weight on the scale is not really going to matter as much as all the other metrics. Whatever weight you got to get to in order to set up to get into a better position, that's just what you got to do. Right? But it's real temporary. It's a pit stop. When you get on a flight, you get on an airplane, you got to go somewhere. Sometimes the plane will go somewhere else entirely that you don't want to go, to land for you to transfer to another flight to go to the place you do want to go. Right? A lot of us have been going in the wrong direction for a really long time, which means we have to go back in the opposite direction. Get to a certain metric to reset, to then go back in the direction we want to go in. Right? It's like you driving on the freeway and you miss your stop. You miss your exit. You can't turn around. You're just gonna have to get off at like the next exit or something like that and figure your way around. Right? And that's gonna take you in a whole other direction you ain't even really want to go. Right? A lot of folks is out here missing their exit. So if you are, let's say you're a man and you are like 5'11", 210 pounds, and your total lean mass is like 140 pounds, and you just want to drop down to like you want to drop down like, 15 pounds or something like this to lose weight. Okay, but you're going to drop down to that 15 pounds. So you're still going to be way overweight compared to what your lean mass is at. Right? You got to lose way more weight than you think. And if you're like, man, that sounds like too much weight, I don't want to get too skinny. Yeah, but your lean mass is a reflection of where you at. Because if you're used to eating every day and your normal weight walking around at 5'11" is like, what, 210 pounds? And your lean weight is 140 pounds, you don't have that much muscle mass on you anyway. You're already too skinny. It's just that you got a lot of fat covering it. Right? Even if you're 210 pounds and your lean mass is 150 pounds, you got a long ways to go. Right? So yeah, you definitely do want to lean out, which means you're going to have to cut down. But it's only temporary. You only got to do it once. You only got to do it once a year, if that. Depends on how well you hold when you got to go back in the other direction and gain back the weight in the right way. At the end of the day, we just have to pay our dues. When we want to create change in our bodies, it has to be a change, a massive change that is created in our minds as well. Well, how do you identify yourself? Right? So, I'm not going to hold y'all too long, but what I will say is this. If somebody asked you who you were, what would you tell them? Right? Like, who am I? If you lead with, let's say I'm a mom, or I'm a dad, I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm a truck driver, I'm an IT professional. And I don't want to hear all of that. I didn't ask what you do, I asked who you are. If you had to remove all the action-based stuff and just say fundamentally who you are, what would you say? And a lot of people struggle with that. And the reason why is because you attach your identity to circumstances and actions. Circumstances and actions are not who you are. They're just the things that you do and the circumstances you live in. Right? If you broken and you struggle to pay your bills, and somebody asks you who you are, do you say I'm a broke person? I'm a poor person? Is that how you identify yourself? I hope it's not. Right? That is a set of circumstances. If you are 100 pounds overweight, 150 pounds overweight, somebody asks you who you are, do you identify I'm an obese person? I'm an extremely overweight person? Is that what you tell people you are? When people ask you who you are, that's what you tell them? I hope not. Right? If you work a particular occupation and then you get injured and you're no longer able to work that occupation, or you get fired and then you no longer work that occupation, is that part of your identity gone? Right? You lose your job, you lose your identity. I'm a teacher, and then you get fired from your teaching job. Do you still tell people you're a teacher? And I'm not telling you how you should answer that question, but what I'm telling you is that you have to be able to accurately identify yourselves apart from occupation and all that other stuff. Not the things you do or the things you have or the circumstances you live in, but who you are as a person. These would be like your values, the essence of who you are. try to write down what that is. Try to answer that. What is the essence of who you are? What is that? If you could describe it in words, what is that? When you truly embody that, then you realize things like your weight on the scale is just one metric of the body that you pilot to move through life. That's all. It's just one metric, right? You shouldn't identify with your blood pressure or your body weight or your body fat percentage. You don't identify with any of those things. They're just sets of circumstances. Those are metrics that measure things happening in your body or on your body. That's it. Those aren't identity traits, right? The only time you should have a fear of being too skinny is for health reasons. It's because dropping to a certain weight diminishes your capacity to operate in a healthy way. Right? Like, you should have a fear of being too skinny, as in like, oh, well, you're emaciated and your muscles are like really weak to the point where you can't walk and you can't breathe and all this type of stuff. That's too skinny. Too skinny isn't like, oh, I feel like I'm losing muscle mass or I feel like I'm losing my butt. That's not that's not a thing to have a fear of. The only things you should really have a fear of are the things that can prevent you from living the life you want to live. Right? The things that prevent you from showing up for yourself and the people around you who depend on you to show up. If you fear something, let it be that. Not just like an arbitrary number like what I had, which was 145 pounds. It's not a whole lot of a difference between 145 and 140. Not a whole lot of a difference. All right? So, I'll be talking more about self-sabotage and more helpful ways to view certain things in order to prevent that self-sabotage so you can stay on track. Because we're going to need to be real tight with our time. We're going to need to be on point. We're going to have to be as linear as possible. We're going to have to tighten up. Because we're going through some tremendous turbulence right now in the years to come. So we got to get disciplined. We got to sober up. Because it's a new time. And we're going to get pressed. And so hopefully the only thing that I hope for, not the only thing, but one of the major things that I hope for is that everybody watching and tuning into the stream right now is that we all make it together. All right. Let me catch up with y'all right quick in the comments. Miss D, what's going on? Good to see you in here. My man Mark. Good to see you in here. Augustus Davis. That's a strong name. Augustus Davis. What's going on? You said Q&A? Yeah, if you got any questions for me, definitely let me know. Don Ann. So what if we do only fasting? Is that when body fat is higher than if we exercise? So what if we do only fasting? Is that when body fat is higher than if we exercise? I don't know if I understand the question. Is that when body fat is higher? You mean total body weight or body fat? When you say only fasting, what do you mean by only fasting? For how long? And maybe you can clarify a little bit. My man John Green, what's going on, brother? Good to see you in here. Ricardo. Yeah, you said you said it's dark, coach, is getting worse. Yeah, I mean, we deep into it. And those of us here in the United States, we live in the belly of the beast. We live in the belly of the beast, and we're going to have to be a stronger people. We're going to have to say no. We're going to have to come together as a unit. So we in for a fight. But we gonna be all right. The content presented is valuable. I'm plant-based, raw, and cooked foods. How can I gain more muscle and optimize testosterone? You know what you got to do? You got to watch my last stream. I actually mapped out what to eat, how much, and all that type of stuff. I mapped out a whole diet plan with that. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about weight gain, because people actually ask me a lot about weight gain. It's not just weight loss, right? And people who ask me about weight gain, they're like, I always hear raw vegans and plant-based people talk about weight loss, but what about weight gain? It's that, and then it's like type 1 diabetics, and it's like everybody's always talking about type 2 diabetics, but they don't really say nothing about type 1. Like, we just hopeless. And I'm like, fair point. So you know what? We got to get some inclusion going on. We got to get some diversity, equity, and inclusion going on. We got to do tribe DEI going on here. That's what we got to do. How do you calculate your body fat? Do you use any calipers? You can use calipers, absolutely. I do it through a digital scale, and it gives me like a rough number that I follow for body fat percentage. So yeah, I think like for me right now, within the last 7 weeks, I've dropped around 2% body fat. I don't know how accurate the number is though, right? Because my weight keeps dropping, but the skeletal muscle percentage number stays the same. It's not staying the same, it's increasing actually. So like my body fat, my skeletal muscle percentage number normally was like around 56 and change, and now it's like at almost 58. Visceral fat is now down to a 4. It's usually like around a 6. I dropped it down to a 4. Which your visceral fat is like the first thing to drop. And then the subcutaneous starts really dropping too. So now I'm a firm believer in if you want to drop body fat, if you want to lose weight, the ideal option is fasting. Again, it's not a magic bullet for everybody because some people don't respond well to fasting. Stress management comes first. So if your body is incredibly stressed and inflamed, and fasting may not really be a good option for you. Right? You may have to prioritize being more well-fed. Right? But yeah, so basically like a digital scale, and I got a digital scale for like $25-$30 or something like this. Actually, I think this one that I'm using now is a bit more high end. But yeah, so, and I follow that number more as like a marker. It doesn't need to be like real accurate, right? It doesn't really matter if the number's wrong. I'm not using any other numbers. I'm just using those numbers. Right? But it's just a way of gamifying my life, right? Going by the numbers, counting everything. Because y'all are going to see me, at my skinniest, and then y'all are going to see me at my heaviest. So we're getting there. I don't do a whole lot of shirtless content or like physique demonstration content. I don't really do a whole lot of that. I'll be on here nerding out, but that's coming. I got some before and after pictures and whatnot, so that's coming. Anna, what's going on? Good to see you in the stream. I see you. There we go. I'm live right now on the Tribe by Noir platform as well. So those who are in the public square or in the Tribe Binaural community can tune in on the platform there. So that's it. We're going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to bed. I want to be in the bed by 9:30. So I got an hour left. So I'm going to drink some burdock root tea. I'm going to wind down. And it's going to be heads in beds. All right. So whoever can do that, whoever can get to bed at a decent time, I advise you to do so. All right. And I'll catch y'all on the next one.